Part 3. Upon entering her room, I was instantly greeted by a blast of cold, stagnant air, like something out of an office space. A printer beeped softly in the corner, several binders worth of paper loosely scattered around the central table in the common space. A small dog collar was lying crumpled atop a leather armchair. I flinched at this. One of the rooms was clearly the governor's, a press suit lying unused atop his bed, which also seemed untouched, the covers pristine and unruffled. The other room, however, was slightly less empty. Casual attire clothing lay discarded on the floor next to a sewing machine, baggy t-shirts, shorts and skirts, crop tops, you name it. Lining the closet walls, however, were formal attire suits. My eyes flashed to see a vacuum cleaner propped up against the far corner. "Welcome," Haze gestured around. I nervously tried to steal another glance into her room before she walked over to the door herself, opening it wide and grinning. "Better not go in here," she giggled. "I'm a bit of a mess. Another secret between us." The door closed slightly as I heard her rummaging through her room. I took the opportunity to look around the space some more. Hung beside the entrance door, a framed picture showed the house's foundation prior to being fully constructed. The grainy black and white photo was hard to make out, and strangely unnerving. I softly lifted the picture off the wall to get a closer look before I heard Haze's door open again. Metal clicked. I frantically put the picture back on the wall. I paused when my eyes flashed back to her room. Empty. There was no one in the main room with me either. Haze? I stammered, taking a step forwards before my foot crunched on glass. I looked down only to freeze in place. I had stepped on a picture frame. The one I could have sworn I had just placed on the wall. The glass was shattered, one of the shards clenched in my hand like a knife. The wall was empty. I stared at this for a few long seconds before returning to my hand, feeling waves of confusion and nervousness wash over me. Why was I holding this shard? And why did I feel like I was about to need it? Why did everything suddenly feel wrong? "Haze?" I spoke again, a bit more frantically, moving faster across the space to peer into her room. I felt my hand clench tighter on the blade, hot blood slowly slipping down my fingers as I snuck a glance inside. My nerves were thundering blood through my veins, skin prickling with unease. The space was littered with clothes, but strangely enough, most of the clothes were placed with strange precision, as if covering something up. Many were draped on hangers on the wall, others piled in heaps that were a bit too controlled to be random. Just what was she doing in here? I steadily walked inside, holding the shard in front of me more like a shield than a weapon, calling one more time for Haze before spotting a sweater dead ahead on a dresser. A piece of paper poked out just beneath it. My hand cautiously reached forward to lift up the clothing. My eyes narrowed as I pulled back the fabric, seeing that the paper was littered with text, as if a message to, "You're not going to attack me with that, are you?" Haze spoke calmly, directly behind me. I jumped, whirling around and barely even realizing I had slashed the shard forward before Haze caught it with her wrist, wincing as blood speckled her face. The glass stopped inches from her forehead. "Oh shit!" I immediately felt pale, letting the shard drop to the ground and backing up in terror. "Oh fuck, I'm so sorry." "It's alright." Haze dropped her arm. before her eyes narrowed. "Just drop it." I was stunned for a second, before my eyes flashed to see that I was still gripping the shard tightly, so much so that flesh was scraping from my own fingers. "What?" I flinched, again splaying my fingers to let the object fall, shaking my hand in panic. The glass was stuck in my skin, flesh stretching like putty yet refusing to release the embedded object as blood rushed down it. My movements grew frantic before, crack, Haze spun to kick with unreal force, my hand splitting backwards as her heel snapped against it. I rolled to the ground like a rag doll, the shard impacting the far wall as bone fragments speckled the carpet. "I didn't mean to," I gasped, rolling in agony. What the fuck is happening?" Haze lowered her leg, steely eyes narrowed in distrust. From her pocket, she brought up a dog collar, the same one from the chair in her living room. She looked at me as if this was supposed to mean something. I just continued gasping for air, blinking heavily before finally catching a bit of breath and trying to curl back my fingers. What the hell is that?" I gagged, staying on the floor as I watched the leather collar swing back and forth. "Okay, good." She finally released her chilling gaze, letting out a relieved exhale. "You're back." Back? I shuddered, getting back to my feet with ungodly amounts of effort, careful not to get too close to her. "What just... I'm so sorry, you just broke my hand." "Don't touch anything." Haze just nodded, strolling out of the room. "Let's talk." I nervously followed after a long pause, the world still swimming through my vision as my hand burned with agony. Despite the immense pain and ghastly bruising, my fingers appeared to function just fine, and the more I looked, the less I seemed to notice the discoloration. Haze plopped onto the living room couch as I stepped outside, laying down on her stomach across its entirety. She dropped the collar against the coffee table before looking up to me, gesturing to the other couch. "Come on," she nodded. "Stay a while, will ya? Now is when things get interesting." I'm not so sure." I began walking over slowly, still looking around the area and stealing another glance at Mr. Borden's room. "I really don't know. I swear I didn't break that picture on purpose. This was all a misunderstanding. I have no idea what the hell just happened." "No one ever does." Haze rolled onto her back, holding up the collar to the light before throwing it back into the armchair. "But I believe you didn't mean to. You might be slowly figuring this out, but I'm actually alone probably 97% of the time." "You do have your quirks." I nodded in light fear, stiffly standing by the couch opposite her. "I guess I'm slowly learning this. You just jujitsu'd my hand across the room." "Oh, it gets worse." She giggled to herself at my response, looking to me and smiling. "That's not comforting." I hesitantly spoke, still standing awkwardly. "Why are you acting so nonchalant about all this? Does stuff like this usually happen or something? I mean, what the fuck? Weren't you just at a normal fundraiser or whatever? I'm not crazy, right?" "Well, that's how it usually goes." Haze laughed. "Alone forever until suddenly surrounded by people. Though creepy old men I'll never see again are never much company. Without getting too metaphysical here, John, do you really think you wouldn't feel alone in the presence of others? Even if no one remembered you?" This last question had a bitter taste to it. It seemed general enough, but the air chilled in a strange way, her eyes scanning my response. Was that directed at me? Was I supposed to remember something? No, you're right, that would be lonely. I finally nodded carefully, sitting down watchfully. No, that definitely sucks. The pain in my hand was all but gone. Well, first world problems, I suppose. She laughed with an air of fakeness I only remembered hearing when we had first talked at the rally. That clearly wasn't the answer she was looking for. In regards to your hand, she rolled back onto her stomach, holding out her hand and gesturing to mine. Can I see it? I paused, carefully extending my hand towards her, not exactly sure what she was going for. Do you even remember what you're talking about? She grasped my hand delicately and gazed at my palm as if about to paint my nails. Or are you going to start talking about the observer expectancy effect? Right, looking for information to fit the hypothesis you gave, I nodded. Even if it doesn't quite fit, that's all I remember from science fair. Well, that's not what you're actually expecting though, right? The spirit box thing? Oh, but it is. Her eyes dropped as she licked her pointer finger. It's something like that. She brought her finger to my hand, beginning to absent-mindedly scrub at the writing she had scrawled. I must escape. Whoa, okay. Didn't like the message after all. I had to sit awkwardly to extend my arm far enough. It was kinda sinister, I guess. She paused for a second before choking back tears and glancing up to me. I just don't want you to be confused in the morning. She wiped at her eyes with her other hand. Maybe, what would you like instead? For a temporary tattoo? I pondered, unable to keep myself from smiling. I don't know, you an artist? I kinda like jellyfish. You would. She sniffled, nearly yanking me off the couch as she pulled my arm closer, uncapping a pen on the table with her mouth and getting to work diligently. I waited for several seconds before trying to steal a glance. Her hand pressed against my head, weakly pushing me away as she bit her lip. Get out of town. She blinked away hot tears, slowly getting back to work. I laughed to myself. There, she slumped. This one isn't very good. Her hands slowly loosened their grip, and I formed a confused smile before turning my hand towards myself and stifling an excited laugh. Goodbye was scrawled in poor handwriting. Aw, that's amazing! I giggled. It's so cute! Haze just stared at the floor, teeth clenched. I'm going to miss this. She spoke slowly, making me look up. Right? I grinned. I mean, yeah, me too. But... Shut up, you fucking pattern. She gritted her teeth. This was always my favorite part. The first time we sat in this room together, I felt... I don't know. This is one of the only happy memories I have. I don't even think it's real. Decision? I was still trying to focus her words. What are you... I said shut up! She snapped before breaking down again. I'm not waiting for you any longer, do you get that? You'll fucking rot here! Her eyes again narrowed through her tears. I mean, I finally spoke slowly. I guess I appreciate you being so open, and you have a weirdly good ability to look at your own flaws, so thanks for being honest. That can't be easy. It's stupid. Haze slowly stood up, shaking. Isn't it? Part of me still wants another animal, maybe 2 dragons this time, but what's the point anymore, right? I feel safe here in this moment. I always have. It's what gets me through the horror of it all. But it's all pretend, isn't it? How pathetic am I? I've been pretending for so long. Looking forward to this each time, but you're not really here, are you? I'm talking to a tape recorder. But I guess, and maybe I should feel bad about this, I continued, saying the words as I found them, but I didn't really care about any of that. The bad things, I mean. You seem alright to me, and you've been nothing but nice to me, so, I don't know, is that weird? I can't really forgive you for things you did to other people, but I can still be your friend, right? I personally like you. I thought you might say that. Haze bowed her head, tears hitting the carpet as she walked across the room. Goodbye, John, she whispered softly, the door closing behind her. So, I guess that's everything on my end? I slowly put out my hand for the pen. I don't really know where that puts us, but would you like an animal as well? I don't know if I can make something quite as good as this beauty, but I'm willing to give it a shot. Silence. The lights above me flickered. The slightest trail of blood ran down my arm as divots softly formed. Haze was nowhere in the room, everything faint and dull. So, I guess that's everything on my end? I slowly put out my hand for the pen. I don't really know where that puts us, but would you like an animal as well? I don't know if I can make something quite as good as this beauty, but I'm willing to give it a shot. The lights above me flickered. The slightest trail of blood ran down my arm as several divots softly formed. Haze was nowhere in the room, everything faint and dull. I looked around in confusion before staring at my empty hand. What was... Something wasn't right. Something had shifted, something that couldn't be replaced. My stomach knotted up, my legs softly bringing me up from the couch as I blinked heavily. Haze? I spoke slowly, quickly seeing that she was nowhere in the space. I took one peek into her room, eyes narrowing on the strung-up clothes before thinking better of invading her privacy. I moved back to the front door, creaking it open and peering outside into the manor. Snow softly drifted from the rafters, blood squelching beneath my feet as I stepped outside. The main lobby was entirely empty, save for the piles of snow accumulating on the railings. However, something immediately caught my eye, the same thing I steadily made my way down the stairs towards. Its dirty copper sheen flickered in the faint moonlight, clanking softly as I picked it up to examine it. the wind-up clock. How the heck did it get out here? Thankfully, Aunt Cheryl was just up ahead in the lobby, turning around at my approach. Her lonely form was out of place and haunting in the darkness, her paper-pale skin appearing almost gray if it weren't for the ghastly tear marks beginning to leave her midsection to spill gore to the ground. Her crusted eyes were ringed with dead black, her tired gaze filled with death. 2 nights is what Mr. Borden's agent said. She looked like she was trying to remember, mouth unhinged as if broken. But you can't tell anyone that, okay? Huh, what? I slowly came to a stop, limbs faltering as I felt a weight relieve itself from my right side. Oh, right, okay. I mean, security reasons, I guess, probably. Well, it's a big manor, lots of rooms with lots of different people. I'll be fine. Unless I'm cleaning her room. My arm slopped to the ground with a loud squelch, stretched elastic skin splitting like ribbons at the bite mark. Maybe not. Cheryl grinned, a smile that ruptured past her broken face before jutting to her feet as her phone went off. Yes, she answered hastily. Her torso began to slide from her lacerated midsection, massive bite marks like a great white shark revealing themselves as blood spilled to the floor. The dead skin of her wrist flayed like paper in the wind, her bones breaking through the rotting flesh, phone not even in her hand as she walked towards the front door and haphazardly waved me goodbye. It's about time. Yes, of course there's a lot of luggage. Yes, I need both of you. I breathed heavily, walking up the master staircase to the 2nd floor. I took a few seconds to marvel at the massive glass chandelier dangling precariously above the lobby. As I did, every time I walked up the steps. Tonight, its grand, elegant form appeared particularly mocking. The clock in my pocket ticked softly. A knock on my door woke me up with painful difficulty. My eyes groggily opened with searing pain as I checked my phone. 5 o'clock. It wasn't even light out yet. I had probably slept less than an hour. The wind-up clock on my dresser had stopped midway through the night. Come on, Aunt Cheryl prompted from the other side of the door. You already had your day off, mister. Let's get to it. Sorry, I rubbed my eyes, sitting up and wincing. My alarm, the clock in my room stopped running. Take it to Royce, she responded. Once you've had some breakfast, your schedule's on the service counter. Right. I nodded to my empty room. Thanks, Cheryl. Sure thing, she cheered. I'm talking to contractors all day today, so if you or anyone else needs me, you'll have to wait until after 6 or just text me. Gotcha, I responded, heavily swinging my legs off the bed and getting to my feet. See you later, then. Her footsteps receded away from the door, and the sounds quickly muted away as my eyes caught my hand. Goodbye was scrawled across it in poor handwriting. I hesitated to stare at this for some time, turning it every which way to figure out if I remembered putting it there. Taking all of my willpower to convince myself that it must have been Sylvia or Royce and that I would ask them later, I jammed a toothbrush in my mouth and hurriedly searched for my winter coat. It looked cold out today. The towering mountains daunting the manor were being choked out by a gray mist, a light, constant drizzle tapping fingers at the glass of my window. I had plenty of time to grab my coat, placing my gardening gloves into my pocket before casually strolling towards the door. At the last minute, I also grabbed the clock, nodding to myself as a congratulations for remembering it. I went to open the door before pausing. It was layered with scratches, as if something had tried to claw its way out. But that wasn't quite it. They were almost more like tick marks. Hundreds, maybe thousands of them. I paused for several seconds of sheer silence before blinking heavily to watch them disappear. I frowned, rubbing my eyes in disbelief and glancing around the room to see if something was wrong with my vision. After confirming to myself I had apparently just experienced a strange temporary blurriness, I cautiously turned back to the door and opened it. The hallway was empty. But more than that, it somehow felt cold.